ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः तदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपीशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंश कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय पादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतलेश्वते वेदांत स्वामी नामने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी चारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य तारिणी मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं यदेव गिरिं जय श्री गुरु कारणं परमानंद माधव हरि ओम। जय श्री प्रहलाद महाराज। जय श्री। Thank you all for joining. We are continuing to discuss various pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj. We are discussing chapter 5 today. This chapter is entitled Prahlad, the saintly son of Hirnaykashipu. So this is a very important chapter because this is a key part of the tussle between Prahlad the devotee and Hirnaykashipu the demon. It's a very, very important chapter in this pastime, this chapter and the next chapter. Uh, and much of the story, as well as much of the philosophy, is within this chapter. Chapter probably has some 40, 50 verses, I think, 50 odd. But I don't want to rush through this chapter. This chapter is, I wouldn't say worth, because not that others are not worth, but this chapter is especially relishable in terms of the message, in terms of the instructions. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, as I mentioned, he would be extraordinarily thrilled to hear and discuss the character of Prahlad and Dhruva. He would tell Gadadhar Pandit, it is said for a long time, almost every day, Lord Chaitanya would visit the Tota Gopinath temple where Gadadhar Pandit would stay and they would sit together and discuss Bhagavad. Of course, they would discuss many pastimes, but there is a specific reference to how Lord Chaitanya would tell, especially for the pastimes of Prahlad and Dhruva. After Gadadhar Pandit would read and explain, Lord Chaitanya would say, this is so wonderful. Tell me again. Repeat, not that, okay, let's go to the next chapter. Tell me again. And Gadadhar Pandit would recite, once more. And Gadadhar Pandit, and 100 times at a stretch, yeah? Not 100 times throughout his, again and again. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be so happy to hear about the transcendental character of Prahlad Maharaj. So happy, so happy. So can you imagine? Sometimes we think, oh, we want to jump to higher topics. What is this? Too much philosophy. This Prahlad Maharaj, Shantaras. I am in Madhurya, or I want to be in Madhurya. But Lord Chaitanya and Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani. And Lord Shyam Sundar himself. They are discussing Bhagavatam together. Can you imagine Radha and Krishna, Kali are coming and sitting together in Jagannath Puri and discussing Bhagavatam, and they are relishing Prahlad Maharaj past. So, we should also understand that these are very important, significant pastimes uh, for us to focus on as. And especially so because, of course, a lot of points, I don't want to go into too much detail. But one of the things that the Lord is trying to instruct us is that for sadhakas like us, the pastime and the example of Prahlad and Dhruva are very, very important. The strength of faith, the determination to remain in the practice of Krishna consciousness, no matter what the difficulties, the determination to follow the process and not get deviated from the goal. That personalities like Prahlad and Dhruva display, that character of a devotee is such an mandatory aspect of the character that a sadhaka needs to imbibe and develop if he wants to have any hope of going to the higher stages. It is not possible by skipping the qualities that Dhruva and Prahlad represent and jump to Madhurya Leela and think that, oh, I can now enter. So this is bachelor's degree. You have to do bachelor's degree before you go to master's degree, and then only you can go to PhD. Just because you open books of PhD or start doing research doesn't mean you have already mastered lower levels. Sometimes people get just bewildered. People means I'm talking about sadhakas. So it's a very important lesson. If Lord Chaitanya and Radhar Pandit are discussing this, how important this is. And one of the important things when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would glorify the pastimes of Prahlad, he was so excited with the character of Prahlad. Sometimes when we hear these pastimes, our excitement, there's a Narsinga drama almost every time on Narsingh Chaturdashi, right? What is our excitement? Generally, the most attention and excitement is in the last scene, where Narsingadev is jumping out of the pillar and tearing Hirnaykashipu apart. Tearing Hirnaykashipu apart. Of course, that is wonderful. We all enjoyed. There's no problem in enjoying that. But the real substance, that is excitement, that is color, that is drama, and of course, spiritual and all wonderful, and we should relish it. But we should not neglect the process of that. The character of Prahlad, the determination of Prahlad, the qualities that made Prahlad so great that Narsingadev appeared from the pillar. How many of us can expect that if we had a similar opposition and with the faith that we can say and point to a pillar and tell, uh, if you know, of course, hopefully none of our parents are served ammonia, but whoever it is, whether it's some political leader or whether it's our boss at work or our neighbor, whoever, that my Lord is here, full confidence and such confidence that if we were to break that the Lord would actually appear. Uh, Such episodes I do not recollect anywhere else, even across the Puranas. So it's very, very extra. So what I'm trying to say is that it is very important for us when we discuss these pastimes to especially focus not just on the storyline, which is interesting and entertaining, but the most important thing for us is what is the quality of devotion? What is the character of Prahlad? What is the kind of sadhana? What is the kind of faith? What was his nature? What was his qualities? And that's what Lord Chaitanya was relishing. He was not again and again and again just discussing the part where Hirnaykashipu was torn and the intestines were worn as a garland. He was more interested in the character of Prahlad. The teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, which are especially spread over this chapter and the next chapter. And why I'm mentioning all this is that I intend to go a little slow through this chapter because we want to try to relish, internalize these aspects, this particular pastime. So I'm deliberately going to go a bit slow. So I wanted to let you know why. So let's share this long explanation. So when we hear about all these great personalities, we have to relate where we stand, our devotion, our determination. Of course, the standards of these pure devotees are, the benchmarks of devotional service, of devotional excellence. We may not become a Prahlad or a Dhruva because they are like, examples which are practically uh, unreachable for almost all sadhakas. They are superlative. That's why they are on the pages of Bhagavad. Superlative examples. But even if you can develop 2%, I'm not even saying 80-90%. I'm saying talking about 2%. Even if we can develop 2% of the qualities, our life will be successful. That is the kind of super excellence in terms of character that this is. So let us begin with this chapter. So we are now coming into that part of Prahlad's pastime. Prahlad is born. uh, and he grows up to be almost 5 years. Prahlad's devotional character is still not so visible. Prahlad would be, of course, it would be visible in the sense that, like what we discussed in the last class, how he would be always absorbed in devotional service and he would be, but he wasn't actively preaching at that time. He would just be, in ecstasy and just absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. So it didn't really come to the notice of his those who surrounded him, and definitely not to Hirnaykashipu, that according to them something was not right about Prahlad. Something not right according to the definition of the demons. So The demons uh, had a university of education, masters in demonology. I don't know whatever degree they had. So Prahlad was placed in that school. So as we mentioned earlier, Shukracharya was the Purohit for the demons and in charge of the school for educating all the demoniac children were the two sons of Shukracharya, Shanda and Amarka. So actually, Shukracharya was a Brahman. By right, a Brahmana is supposed to not be, teaching demons. So demons are atheists; they're opposed to the Lord. But Shukracharya, being attached to comforts, as his name indicates, Shukra, and attached to his children, attached to his self wealth, he was not following this principle of not favoring and taking the side of the demon. So Brahmanas have to be very careful. Brahmanas have to be always on the side of truth. Must act in terms of the ultimate spiritual welfare for whoever they are guiding. Shukracharya was more concerned about his profit. The same thing had happened earlier uh, when we discussed the pastime of Bali Maharaj, right? When Bali Maharaj wanted to surrender to Vishnu, Shukracharya became very disturbed because he was thinking, surrenders to Vishnu, Vishnu will take away everything from him. And if he takes everything away from him, how I will get my dakshina? Shukracharya stopped him from surrendering Lord Vamana. And Prabhupada writes very strongly at that point. So this is how corruption amongst the Brahmanas and the Guru class comes, if they are not properly pure. And that's why the Shastras say Brahmana should have a vow of poverty, which means a Brahmana shouldn't be dependent on others and should never be attached to wealth. They should live very simply because in that way he will never feel obliged to speak things which are not true. Because if you are dependent on others, what happens? You cannot speak the truth. You have to speak what is pleasing to those whom you are dependent on. Or if you are motivated by wealth rather than cultivation of the absolute truth, then also you will speak things in such a way that you will please your yajman rather than actually thinking of his welfare. So unfortunately, Shukracharya had already fallen into that kind of a category. This is known as Shukra Acharya. He was also very attached to his sons. His two sons, Shanda and Amarka, they were like, in charge of the school for the demons. And that school was quite close to the palace of Hirnaykashipu. So Hirnaykashipu had handed over Shukracharya, his son Prahlad. He's 5 years old now. Time for him to go to school so that he's properly trained. Of course, the training which the demons expect to be given is of a different class. They not only learn, math, science, Sanskrit, maybe history, geography, whatever else they used to learn those days. But other than that, topics on politics, how to play politics, economics, how to control, how to negotiate, how to exploit, all these things which are important for demons to be good demons. The Bhagavatam says Prahlad was actually already educated. Educated in what? Educated in devotional life. Because that is the supreme education, isn't it? Raja Vidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmam. Bhagavad Gita Krishna says this. The knowledge or education of devotional service is the highest Vidya. Prahlad from his very birth, in fact, even before he was born, he was instructed by Narad Muni in the highest wisdom. So he was already educated, but now he was to be given lessons in some mundane aspects of life. And Prahlad, being so absorbed in transcendental devotional service, was actually not very interested. He went to school. Prahlad was a very amiable person. Sometimes, as devotees, especially when we are new in devotional service, get some knowledge when we learn a little bit. We are, like, I know, you don't know, you are demon, you are demon, you are demon. I am devotee. That was very peaceful. He would not disturb anybody. He would be himself absorbed. He would generally, at least up to that point, mind his own business. So he would just play along. He didn't want to disturb the situation. Go to school. That's what my father wants. And he joined school. There were so many other boys along with him, the children of other prominent demons. And he used to start attend classes. And the teachers, especially Shanda and Amarka, would teach them about politics, economics. And Prahlad Maharaj wasn't too much enjoying the class. He was listening. Huh? Maybe he was also writing in the exam the same answers which were being told to him. It's not written like this, I'm speculating. Huh? But he was not at all interested. He was saying, what is this? What is it that he is a self-realized soul? He's saying, what is it that these people are teaching? Their whole philosophy of the demons, huh, is all surrounded around two things. This is my friend, this is my enemy. This is one kind of thinking. And second kind of thinking is, this is how I can exploit. This is how I can control. All about aham and mama. This is that these people are teaching. This is all nonsense. This is not the path to happiness. A devotee who's advanced in devotional service quickly realizes that this is the basis of Maya. This is the basis of wrong understanding. And this is the actual cause of suffering. It seems to be to the demons, to the materialistic mind, as the path to happiness. Understand who's my friend, who I need to talk to. This person is rich and famous. Let me develop some relationship with him. This person is useless. He's a middle class man. Why should I waste my time with him? This is how I can get this benefit. This is how. So Prahlad didn't like it, but he kind of went along with it. Then finally, after some days in school, Hirnaykashipu was excited. Let me check how my son is doing in school. So he had Shanda and Amarka send Prahlad over. And he called Prahlad, oh, my dear Prahlad. And Hirnaykashipu was very affectionate to his son. Huh? In fact, demons are, it's not that demons are, not affectionate. They are affectionate based on the bodily concept of life. They'll be extremely, demons may be even more attached and affectionate. Their bodily connections, wife, children, parents, even more than devotees, because of the moha of physical blood connection. So he was so happy to see Prahlad. And very affectionately, he asked Prahlad, brought him on the lap and cuddling him, oh Prahlad, my dear son, please tell me, so many subjects you are learning. Tell me, out of all the things you have learned, what is the best? So parents are like that, right? When parents, for very young children, when the young children go to school, very common question when the children come back from school, the mother or the father will ask, and maybe many of you have also done this to your children. आज स्कूल में क्या पढ़ाया? What did they teach you in school today? Huh? Not that the parents are, particularly interested in the knowledge aspect. They're just curious, how the child is absorbing, what he's digesting, what he's picking up, what is it that is exciting him. They're not expecting a serious answer. In fact, many times it is very entertaining how the child responds to these questions. Because as a child in school, when you talk to a child, you don't know what actually will hit the mind of the child. He will hold on to certain things which you least expect that he will hold on to. And then, he will suddenly say something obscure and say, no, this is what I heard, but how I like this? Why, how like this? How like that? And all these kind of conversations are very entertaining to the parents. It's also nice to ask this kind of question. There is a nice engagement that the parents have with the children. So actually, when Hirnaykashipu asked this question to Prahlad, obviously he was not expecting any serious answer. He was expecting an answer which is, a small boy's, a very young child's answer. Oh, I like this so much. We played with clay. We did some origami. So nice with paper. Papa, I made this flower. Let me show you. So, my school bag. See this. So, the parents become very happy. So, she was thinking, Prahlad. But Prahlad was so sober, so peaceful. And even though Prahlad was very sober, he would not bother. He wasn't so much preaching. But because he's so established in the truth, he would never lie. So when he asked him this question, Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad gave a very honest answer. And Prahlad was actually educated. He was PhD in devotional service. So he gave a very profound answer. So what is the answer he gave? I'll recite the Sanskrit. So the question that he asked is, uh, Manyate sadhu yad bhavan. Tell me, O Prahlad, what do you consider as sadhu? Very good that you have learned. Manyate sadhu yad bhavan. So Prahlad says, Tat sadhu manye asurvarya dehina. Sada samudvigna dhyam asadgrahat. Hitvatma patam grihamandakupam. Vanam gato yad harimashade. This is the first teaching of Prahlad that comes in this chapter, other than the description of his character. First utterance of Prahlad, very powerful, very, very strong. So we are going to spend some time discussing this also because this is very, very profound thing that Prahlad is saying. So first thing is he is referring to his father as Asurvarya. Oh, greatest of demons. So please don't try to use this reference to refer to your parents, even if you don't like them. But Hiranyakashipu was very happy when he heard Asurvarya. Oh, I am the best of the Asuras. Topmost Asura. Correct? Those who are demoniac take pleasure in, demoniac activities, and their glory as a person who is capable of hurting and, exploiting others. So demons, when they glorify each other, like criminals, I have done 5 murders. Person says, just 5? I have killed 21. So like that. So amongst the criminals and the demoniac people, if they are said to be the greatest murderer, the greatest demon, they actually think it's a great glory. Correct? I just remember, for example, in the Sholay movie, Gabbar Singh, when he was bragging about himself, he's saying, what is my glory? for so many miles around this place. uh, Whenever a small child doesn't sleep, you know what the mother tells the small child? Sleep now, otherwise Gabbar Singh will come. That is the kind of fear that people have for me. That is my glory. So this is the Demonian mentality. They measure their success in terms of how much fear and terror they create in the hearts of others. Anyway, Asurvarya, Tat Sadhu Manye. I will tell you what I consider as the topmost. Tehina, for people who are embodied. All those who are embodied, all those who are in this world should consider as the best for them. I'm not just telling something what is best only for myself or what I think wonderful. This I consider as the best for all living entities. What is it? Before telling what it is, he says, what is the typical quality of those who are Dehina? He says, oh my dear father, those who have taken up this material body, basically all those who have taken up this material body are conditioned souls. And what is the typical characteristics of the conditioned soul? Sada samudrigna dhiya. The people in general, their minds are always disturbed and full of anxiety. Correct? Because we may ask somebody on the street, how are you? Oh, kaise ho? Maza ma. I mean, great joy. You actually sit with them and they drink one or two pegs, then all the misery will come out. This is like this, my wife is like this, my job is like this, and this problem and this health issue. Sada samudvigna dhiya. Full of problem. And not just full of problem. To be full of problem is the nature of the material world, but always in anxiety. That is the problem. Always disturbed. Why? Asat grahat. Because they have been captured. Their consciousness has been captured by asat. By this false identification that they are this body and mind. Because of this false identification uh, of accepting the temporary body and the mind as the self, they are always disturbed in anxiety. And these kind of people who are typically materialistic householders, whose whole life is centered around I, me, and mine, their household life is actually, Prahlad Maharaj says, huh, like being in a andhakupam, tvatma patam, griham andhakupam. They are in a griha, but they are not grihastha. They are a griha medhi. Grihastha means those who are situated in the house with wife and children but are focused in worshipping the Lord. That is not a problem. But Griha Medhi is situated in Griha Andha Kupam, where the house is like a deep dark well. Why deep dark well? What is the meaning of a Griham Andha Kupam? A well which is very deep, very dark down, and there's no water. So if accidentally somebody falls down into the well, he falls into a dark well, he cannot even climb out, not even any water inside. He's practically stuck in darkness without any hope of being pulled out or having to come out. Hitva Atmapatam. This kind of condition of materialistic household life uh, is indeed the cause of the degradation of the soul. Atmapatam. This is the condition. Prahlad Maharaj. This is first dialogue to his father. That this kind of materialistic householders who's were engrossed in materialistic life, considering their body to be their self, and who are always harassed by material anxieties. For all such embodied people, the best thing to do, and this is what I've learned, and this definition that I've given is applicable to 99.9999% of the population. All such people should give up this kind of a materialistic life and go to the forest. Vanam gato. Vanam gato means give up all this nonsense, materialistic life. And Prabhupada says, Vana that he's referring to is go to Vrindavan. Vrindavan is the place where one exclusively engages in Krishna consciousness. Vanam gato yat harim ashrayata, and take full shelter of Lord Hari. So Prabhupada says, he's saying that one should give up materialistic life and go to Vrindavan and engage in exclusive devotional service. Actually, this is the general expectation from everybody in Vedic culture. There is Brahmacharya ashram, there is Grihastha ashram, then there is Vanaprastha. Go to the forest. 50. How many here in this class have crossed 50? Raise your hand. I'm looking at all your names. I think almost most. You haven't. Most. Vanam gato yad harimashrayat. Enough. I'm not saying this, Shastra does. Enough. बहुत हो गया. Shastra says 50 हो गया ना. Whatever you did, you did. Whatever you wanted to achieve, whatever you wanted to do, good things. Good things means career-wise, achievement-wise, success-wise, money-wise. Now is the time to vanam gato. Take vanaprastha. Vanaprastha is a stepping stone to sannyas. Sannyas means complete cessation of materialistic life and full absorption in the Sutra. Vanaprastha is adaptation period, in between period. When one is trying to detach and purify and come to a higher level of consciousness. One cannot suddenly jump, no? From Grihastha life, can one suddenly flip and say, okay, from today, materialistic life off and spiritual life on? You cannot. Else we will become simply pretenders. Mithyachara soch. So mind will be absorbed. So one needs time to disentangle, purify. So that whole slowly So the whole idea of Vanaprastha is to extricate oneself from active material engagement. Develop one's sadhana and develop one's attachment to the Lord. So a focused effort to detach from matter and be attached to Krishna. And that typical advice is, of course, in olden times. Would say, यार तुम घर में रहोगे तो how will you be detached? Your grandchildren will be there. Your children will be busy with their lives. Your children and grandchildren will knowingly or unknowingly drag you into all their household issues. Your consciousness will always be absorbed. You will relive your life through the lives of your children and grandchildren. You will remain absorbed. So figure out a way to distance yourself. In olden times, they could actually go into an ashram in the forest. Not going to forest doesn't mean literally staying under a tree. That may not be practical. But keeping a distance from active material society and being in a place, whether it's in an ashram or it can be in an apartment, doesn't matter. And being in a place, in a situation where one is not dragged into all the issues of day-to-day materialistic life, but where one can cultivate detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna very actively. That's Vanaprastha. So that is very much encouraged. So if beyond 50 one is not doing that, then one should introspect and see. Of course, 50 is not a hard number. It's a guiding number. 25, 25, 25, 25. That's how the Vedas divide. It's 25 years Brahmachari, next 25 Grihastha, next 25 Vanaprastha, then 25 Sannyas. Assuming 100 years. Nowadays, you don't even live 100. 80, 90. So that part is important. So he's saying that. And Prabhupada says another thing. Says he encourages, the purpose is that he encourages devotees after their active grihastha life to, kind of retire in Vrindavan and absorb themselves in devotional service. It's very nice. So, of course, whether we physically go to Vrindavan or whether we actually go to ashram, those are different ways to do it. But the key point is how we focus on detaching from matter and attachment to Krishna in a significant way in our life. The principle is ultimately important. Still be in Bombay, Kuala Lumpur, Nasik, Bangalore, wherever we are. As long as we are molding our life in that direction. Otherwise, there is no end. There is no end to how many things our minds will continually be attracted to. Shrotavyadini tani nrinam santi sahasrashah apashyatam atma tattvam griheshu grihame. The Bhagavatam is said, this is in the first canto. There are unlimited things to talk about and discuss and hear. In material life, will continuously create situations, things, your life, your children's life, your neighbor's life, and so many things around us that will give reasons for our consciousness to contemplate and remain absorbed in. Nrinam santi sahasrasha, thousands and thousands of topics to hear. Apashyatam atma tattvam griheshu grihamedina. But those who are this kind of entangled householders, grihamedhis, they will simply remain attracted and absorbed in those subjects. Apashyatam atma tattvam, because they will not focus on trying to understand the atma tattva. So it's very important to change the bahirmukha vision. Grihastha life is predominantly bahirmukha. Bahirmukha means outward looking. Vanaprastha is about slowly changing from the bahirmukha to antarmukha. Of course, it is not that during Grihastha one cannot be antarmukha. It is possible, but the vast majority are generally busy in material affairs. But at least now, at least now. So he says, Prahlad Maharaj tells his father, I'll read the translation once. Prahlad Maharaj replied, O best of the Asuras, king of the demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master, Any person who has accepted a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a deep, dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of God. Can you imagine what would have been Hirnaykashipu's situation when he heard this from the mouth of Prahlad? Asking his boy in a cute way, oh, tell me what you have studied, and this is what comes out. Huh? तत्साधु मन्ये असुरवर्य देहिनाम सदा समुद्विग्न धियम असद्ग्रहात् स्वात्मपातम गृहमंदकूपम वनम गतो यद हरिमाश. And not only that, he is telling Hiranyakashipu straight on the face, sitting on his lap, and should abandon materialistic life and take shelter of Lord Hari. And Hiranyakashipu's goal in life is to chop off the head of Hari and drink the blood. This is the this is the last thing to tell Hiranyakashipu. So Narad Muni, who is narrating this pastime, he tells Hiranyakashipu, when he heard about this kind of a glorification of Hari and this kind of an advice from the mouth of Hari, initially he was shocked and surprised, but he wasn't immediately angry. He heard Prahlad's also and he started laughing. ये कहाँ से सीखा? Where did you learn this from? The first thing Hiranyakashipu does is he looks at Shanda and Amarka, his teachers. What is going on? He is under your care. This is the intelligence of the child is spoiled by the words of the enemy, because what Prahlad is saying is not part of the curriculum taught in the school. That he knows. The syllabus has been thoroughly validated to be exclusively atheistic. So he knows there is no Gita, there is no Bhagavatam, there is no devotional service being taught. So it cannot be in this syllabus. So Hiranyakashipu tells Shanda and Amarka, says, my dear demons, please be careful. Make sure the whole Gurukul is carefully guarded and give full protection to this boy. Somebody is poisoning his mind by telling him these kind of nonsense things. Be careful, there is some infiltration, some Vaishnava spy, some raw agent has entered into our ashram. Make sure that this kind of a contamination is not spread. And watch out, there must be somebody who's in a disguise, a devotee who is disguised as if he's a demon, who is spoiling. And this spoiling of the intelligence may not be limited to my son alone. Maybe others are also being polluted by this kind of nonsense thought. So first time when Hiranyakashipu hears this, he's a bit surprised, he's a bit worried, but he doesn't react angrily to Prahlad. Kind of laughs it out. 5 साल का बच्चा, he doesn't even know what he's talking. Correct? So sometimes even small children, when we ask them such questions, they'll give some absurd or some nonsense answer. We'll just laugh and we'll try to make them understand. No, it's not like that. So after this episode, of course, Shanda and Amarka were shocked. They're like, really disturbed. So Shanda and Amarka said, okay, okay, Hirnaykashipu ji, we will see and we'll take care of this. They took Prahlad and they took him back to school. And Shanda and Amarka went to Prahlad. They didn't actually shout at him, didn't scold him, huh? Because they wanted to take out from him the information about if they scolded, he would be too scared, they thought, and then he may not tell the truth. So let us be nice to him. So they took him, oh, Prahlad, so nice. What shloka you have spoken. Where did you hear this? So very mild word, with mild words, very affectionate language. They told him, tell lies, tell us, we'll not do anything. Tell us, no other boys speak like this. You are speaking like this. Who taught you all these things? This is not something which is given in our book. So from where did you get this wrong understanding? They're all your teachers. We just want your good. They're just concerned about you. Please tell us. Prahlad Maharaj was very clear. He could see through everything very clearly. So Prahlad Maharaj directly he tells Shanda and Amartya. Huh? Because he sees that Shanda and Amarka are thinking that what Prahlad is speaking is actually a contamination. Huh? And what they are teaching, they are thinking that is real knowledge. So Prahlad feels that now he must educate them of what is real knowledge and what is false knowledge. Huh? So Prahlad wants to make it sure to Shanda and Amarka what you are thinking that I am contaminated, this is not at all a contamination. But what you are teaching me is the actual contamination. So very nicely, Prahlad explains back to Shanda and Amarka. Says, what you all are teaching, I'm just paraphrasing it, what you all are teaching in terms of the distinctions between, oh, this is my friend, this is my enemy, this kind of thinking based on bodily consideration is actually a deluding contamination for the intelligence of men. I have heard this from my spiritual master. I can now see it amongst all of you. You are all deluded by this wrong intelligence. When one receives the blessings of the Supreme Lord and can see things as they are, understand the self as pure spirit soul as a part and parcel of the Lord, he doesn't make this kind of a distinction between friends and enemies. He understands and sees everyone as part and parcel of the Lord. He has an equal vision towards everyone. He has love for the Lord. He sees everyone connected to the Lord. They are not different. We are different, but we are still one. There is no friend, there is no enemy. We are one because we are all part and parcel of the Lord. We are all part of Him. We are all individual living entities. And those who think in terms of I, me, mine, friends, and enemies, they are unable to see this truth. But this kind of a knowledge is not easy to get. Even great devatas are bewildered about the truth. Sometimes even so learned, very high, exalted devatas can also be bewildered about the actual truth and the principles of devotional service. And as far as I am concerned, you're saying who has contaminated my mind. So as I explained, this is not a contamination. What you are teaching is contamination. The second thing is, I have been like this from my birth. There has not been any external source. I received mercy of my spiritual master even before that. But my heart is naturally fixed in this understanding of what is the transcendental truth by the grace of my spiritual master. And my consciousness is naturally gravitating towards the lotus feet of the Lord, just like iron filings are attracted towards a magnet. I am helpless. My consciousness just attracted towards the lotus feet of that Lord, the Chakrapani Lord, has a disc, Sudarshan Chakra in his. I'm practically without any independence. I'm always helplessly remembering him. So these two things he says. One is, what is contamination? So this is a very interesting thing because this is always the conflict between the devotee and the demon. And this is the conflict within our the human society also. What is seen valuable by the materialistic people is seen useless by the devotee. And what is valuable, understood as valuable by the devotee, is considered useless by materialistic. And Krishna echoes this same point in the Bhagavad Gita. Anyone remembers the verse? If not the exact verse, at least the translation, roughly. Anyone?
Prabhuji, I'm not sure that if gold, everything is considered to be useless for a devotee. Is that the one, Prabhu?
On that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is gold is useless, but there is no contrast there between the devotee and the devotee. This is the
That
verse.
day and night concept yogis
Yeah,
do.
correct. That is the
Yeah.
verse.
Yeah.
Correct. Ya nisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyam. That which is night for the introspective sage is daytime for the materialistic person, and that which is night for the materialistic person, the devotee, the muni is awake. What does that mean? That the devotees are awake to things where to which materialistic people are asleep to, and whatever things materialistic people are awake to, the devotees are asleep to it. Asleep to it means they are not interested in those things. So actually, the qualities of the devotees and the demons are pretty opposite. That's why demons are defined in very simple ways, right? In the scriptures, Vishnu Bhakta Smrta Daiva. Devotees of Lord Vishnu are the Devatas. And Asura Tad Vipareya. Simplest definition of Asuras is they are opposed to whatever the, the devotees do. So devotees like this, they will not like it. If devotees don't like something, the Asuras will like it. Very simple. So Prahlad is telling Chandra and Amartya that you think I am contaminated, but let me tell you that actually you your intelligence is deluded because you are thinking like this. This is not the path to real happiness. As far as your question on where I'm getting this from, I'm always fixed in Krishna consciousness from my very birth. And helplessly, my mind, I don't need somebody to come and there is no essentially saying there is no external infiltration within the ashram. In bracket, the infiltration into his consciousness already happened before he was born. Even though he doesn't mention that explicitly, I have received this mercy from my spiritual master. So when Prahlad spoke like this, and then he became silent. He didn't speak anything. Just Shanda and Amarka, they became very angry. Because if you tell the teacher that you don't know what you're talking about, I will tell you what is the correct understanding. No teacher likes to hear that, right? Correct? But of course, Prahlad wasn't anybody else's child. He was the child of the big boss, the son of the big boss, Hirnaykashipu. So they were angry, but they somehow controlled their anger. Uh, But still, they wanted to make sure that they wanted to scare Prahlad at least. So they started speaking to each other. Oh, bring me a stick. Prahlad is causing our name to be spoiled by, see what Hiranyakashipu is thinking about us. He thinks that we are not protecting the ashram. He's thinking that uh, uh, we are allowing people to come in and pollute the students. So, he's creating such ruckus. If he doesn't give up this kind of a behavior, then we will have to really punish him. And they chastise him by saying that this Prahlad, he has appeared like a thorn tree in the forest of sandalwood. So it is said in the scriptures that to cut down a sandalwood tree, you need, of course, an iron blade, but you all need a very strong piece of wood to be put into that axe. And typically, the wood of the thorn tree is used because it's very strong to become the handle of the axe. So, Chanda and Amarka are comparing Prahlad to be the handle of the axe in the hands of the Devatas, cut down the trees of the demons. So, that kind of example they give. So, Chanda and Amarka, they threatened and chastised. They didn't beat him. They were afraid to actually heavily punish him, but they used verbal chastisement and tried to scare him, make him toe the line. Prahlad was quiet. He didn't protest or he didn't further argue with Chanda and Amarka. And since Prahlad kept quiet, they kind of assumed that Prahlad has understood his mistake. And Prahlad continued to attend the classes and they continued to teach him Artha, Dharma, Kama, all these things, and they continued to educate, thinking that now his problem is fixed and now he's learning things properly. Okay, so we'll stop here. We have discussed the first 18 verses of this chapter. This chapter has 57 verses, so almost one third. So I'm opening up the floor if there are any questions on what we have discussed so far. Okay, nothing. Wonderful. So thank you so much. And I'll see you all on Tuesday. We will discuss Chaitanya Charitamrita on Tuesday. So please read this chapter. So wonderful, lot of wonderful points in the purport Srila Prabhupada gives. So we seek the blessings of Prahlad Maharaj. Prabhupada would often say, the child of 5 years can be Krishna conscious. Prabhupada would always emphasize to the example of Dhruva and Prahlad, one needs to begin spiritual training for children from very early age. Sometimes parents think, oh, now it is time to study nowadays. But life will pass by very fast. And unless we train the children in the age that they are impressionable, we will not be able to instill in them the right values, the right character, the right qualities. It's very important to expose our children to this. In earlier times, so much of the teaching of Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc., the child's character would be formed simply even by hearing, not necessarily so much philosophy, simply by hearing the pastimes from the various itihasas like Ramayana, Mahabharata, hearing stories from the Puranas, seeing the parents following the path of dharma, seeing the parents doing their sadhana. That itself is such a important means by which the right qualities are instilled in the children. Because children learn a lot by emulating. They learn a lot not based on what we instruct them, but based on what they see, what they hear, and what those whom they consider as their default authorities, what is the character and behavior that they display. This refers to their parents, their immediate other elders, even grandparents, and other respectable personalities and teachers in school. So it's so important that people who take this kind of responsible position are of exemplary character. That's why the Bhagavatam elsewhere says that unless one has exemplary spiritual character, one should not take up such responsible positions in society as parents, as teachers, as rulers, kings, uh, or a demigod. That's what the Shastra says. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you so much for patiently listening. All glories to Prahlad Maharaj. All glories to Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare
Haribol,
Krishna.
Darshana ji, Leela
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna, Guruji.
Hare
Yes,
Hare
Ravindra
Krishna,
Prabhu,
Hare
Ashwin,
Krishna Prabhu,
nice to see
Dandavata
you.
Pranams.
Thank you
Dandavat
very
Mataji.
much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. Haribol.
Thank you, Anand Sundari Mataji,
Hare Krishna
Chitrima
Prabhuji, thank
Mataji.
you.
Thank you,
Hare Krishna
Prabhuji, Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you, Sarva
Thank you,
Lakshmi
Prabhuji.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Rita ji, thank you. Indulekha Mataji, Tarun, Pooja, ji, Sneha ji. Chini ji, I spoke to her yesterday in great detail.
Thank you,
Very
Prabhu.
nice
Hare
to
Krishna,
interact.
Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you. So if any of you, I'm just letting you all know also, if any of you think that, and I'm already doing this with some of you, I'm in touch with you beyond the class as well. If any of you feel for whatever reason you need some guidance in any areas, philosophical or otherwise, feel free to reach out and whatever way I can assist you to help chart your path in life. That attempt. Yeah, I think with quite a few of you, I'm already in touch. So, but for those who haven't, if they wish, that's an option you could choose to exercise. Thank you. I'll see you all soon on